morning, everyone. Let me start by welcoming you all to our scientific webinar, the new Pact on strategy on migration and asylum, state of play and future perspectives. You have all received the agenda for today's meeting, so let's start with a brief presentation of what we will discuss about today. As you know, migration governance remains a constant challenge for the EU, its member states and European societies. Let me cite some data from Eurostat. In 2023, 4.4 million immigrants entered the EU from non-EU countries. This is a little bit less than in 2022, but still it's a huge number. In 2024 also, 14 million were citizens of another EU country, and 29 million were citizens of non-EU country. Member states are addressing these challenges in different ways, with varying degrees of success, transforming them into benefits for their economies, social potential, demographics, and so on. This raises the question of whether these numbers are the processes behind them should be considered a crisis at all, or rather a permanent element of the EU policy and governance. This webinar provides a brief introduction to the 2024 reform of the EU's broad migration policy, broadly understood, the Pact on Migration and Asylum. We would like to discuss the implementation of this pact with you, highlight key challenges in this process, and point out potential consequences. The seminar is co-organized by the research section titled Migration Processes and Migration Governance and the Polish Association of European Studies, the Department of European Studies at the Institute of Political Science and Administration of Kardynała Stefan Wyszyński University in Warsaw, and the Department of Political Studies at the Institute of International Studies of the Warsaw School of Economics. Partners of the events are the Civica Research Hub TransConnect, the newly established International Center for Migration Research at the Kardynała Stefan Wyszyński University in Warsaw, and the Metropolis International Migration Network, and also Research Committee 46 Migration and Citizens of the International Political Science Association, and Team Europe Direct Polska. The seminar is held under the honorary patronage of the Warsaw branch of the Polish Association of European Studies. And now I hand over to Dr. Marta Pachocka from the Warsaw School of Economics, who will lead the first part of our meeting. Marta, I give you the floor.
Monica, thank you very much for this introduction to today's meeting, and also about who is co-organizer and who is our partner. So as you see, this is like the common effort. And what is important, today's meeting is in the first part led by myself, and the second part will be led by Monica, and will be, as you know from the program, about contributions during the roundtable discussion. But what comes now is the first opening speech with our special guest, Ms. Marta Cygan. She is with us on behalf of DG Migration and Home Affairs, so DG Home from the European Commission Office. So, Ms. Cygan, so the floor is yours, and we kindly ask you to share your opening remarks, provide us with the most up-to-date information about the new pact, so-called now new Pact on Migration and Asylum. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Marta. It's nice to have two Martas talking at this moment together. Good morning, everybody. And I can assure you, indeed, I am here talking and representing our Directorate General, which is responsible for migration, borders, and security. But I am also absolutely ordinary citizen too. So I am talking to you with these two elements in my heart. Let me start then the webinar by thanking you for this invitation. I am really honored to join the scientific webinar, because you have chosen excellent timing, and it is a crucial moment for Europe's migration and asylum policy. So having this discussion today is a very good idea. Why? Because the Pact on Migration and Asylum, we have it already for some time adopted, but in just 3 months from now, we will enter into full application of the Pact. The date, the deadline, it's 12th of June of this year. It's the deadline of implementation. It is not just a deadline, it is the beginning of a new chapter in migration policy. And on that day, I am fundamentally convinced that we are going to have an essential change on how Europe manages asylum. Asylum, migration, external borders. This is the new system that will work only if we are going to be ready. The coming months are going to also show our moment of truth in the preparation, which started with the moment of adoption of the Pact. Let me acknowledge in first place the enormous effort already made until now by many actors, because many actors are a part of this common effort and this common engagement. And maybe this is one of the lessons learned and big differences with all the things that have been done on migration policy until now, especially if we look a decade before. I would like to really express a deep gratitude to the member states, to all the European Union institutions and agencies that have worked tirelessly to prepare. Progress has been steady and significant, and now, as we enter to this final phase, we need to be honest about the challenges ahead, and together in our resolve, and be together in our resolve to overcome potential problems linked with these challenges. You were talking at the beginning that we are going to talk about implementation, key challenges, potential consequences. This is exactly the moment when we have to be aware about what are the challenges ahead, and being united in trying to resolve them. Now, let me start by highlighting what we have achieved together at various levels in this preparation for the day of 12th of June. First, at the horizontal level, we have advanced on key actions under the Common Implementation Plan of the Pact. In January this year, we adopted the first ever European Asylum and Migration Management Strategy, a 5-year political blueprint centered on 3 equally vital objectives. The first one, preventing irregular migration, then protecting those in need of international protection, and attracting the talent Europe requires. This strategy, supported by the Pact, will guide our collective actions for years to come. At the member states level, the preparation has been intense and ongoing all this time in between the adoption and now. Our 27 country teams in DG Home remain in close contact with national authorities. They are tracking readiness and providing necessary support in constant and dynamic dialogue with the national authorities. The same goes for our agencies, the European Union Agency for Asylum, Frontex, and the Fundamental Rights Agency, which have all stepped in to support through knowledge, operational and technical support, as well as guidance and trainings. Of course, progress, it is not uniform. This is inevitable. In a reform of this scale, it is inevitable to have complexity really visible at this stage. But the direction is very clear and we are moving forward. Now let me turn to one of the most innovative and operationally demanding elements of the Pact. One area where readiness is of paramount importance and very visible is Eurodac. This system is the backbone of the Pact. If Eurodac does not function flawlessly, it will disrupt not only proper screening, but also the balance between the responsibility and solidarity. And Eurodac is not just a technical tool, it is the operational foundation for the procedures that member states need to carry out. Another real game changer is the border procedure. Its objective is clear: to manage irregular migration flows and asylum applications more effectively at the European Union external borders. And for the first time, we will have mandatory screening for all arrivals, a border procedure for asylum applicants from countries with low recognition rates, those who mislead authorities or who pose security risks, and return border procedure for the expedited removal of those not in need of protection. Innovation comes with complexity, as I said before, and as we are a union of values, legal safeguards must be observed and focus must be paid on ensuring, in first place, the proper infrastructure, all the necessary facilities to conduct screenings and procedures. Staffing, trained personnel to handle cases in an efficient way. Clear workflows, procedures, coordination between asylum and return authorities. Legal safeguards in sensu stricto, ensuring fundamental rights and care for unaccompanied minors and vulnerable people. And efficient judicial procedures, given the tight deadlines. The Pact is built on two core principles, solidarity and responsibility, and neither can function without the other. Last November, we launched the first annual migration management cycle, identifying member states under migratory pressure at risk. In December, the Council established the 2026 Solidarity Pool, a historic step too. Now our focus is on operationalization. At the same time, responsibility must be upheld, and the Pact's Dublin system, with its new implementing rules, will make transfers easier and faster. But for these to work, all member states need to meet their obligations. And where gaps are found, we are working closely with those member states to ensure the system functions as designed. I would like to refer specifically to the case of Poland. It's an important member state who went through a very deep experience when the time of the full-scale Russian war came. I would like to emphasize the tremendous efforts of the Polish people and the Polish government in welcoming Ukrainian citizens seeking protection from the war of aggression against Ukraine. Poland has also made significant efforts and is strongly committed to protecting the European Union's external border. They expressed, Poland made efforts, and both President von der Leyen and the Commissioner Brunner, who is responsible for migration and home affairs in the European Commission, visited the Polish border with Belarus in recent months. They expressed the Commission's full solidarity with Poland and other member states that have been facing hybrid attacks. The Commission has been working closely with the Polish government to address these challenges. And in November last year, as we launched the annual migration management cycle under the Pact, assessing the migratory situation in member states and proposing to set up a solidarity pool for 26, the Commission took into account that during the period in between July 24 and June 25, Poland has recorded the highest number of temporary protection registrations in the Union, which is relative to GDP and the population. And this situation put a significant strain on the migration, asylum, and border management system of Poland since 2022 and created integration challenges. It is an example of member states under these challenges. And on that basis, the Commission considered that Poland has been facing a significant migratory situation and is therefore entitled to a full deduction of solidarity contributions. The Council decision on 26 solidarity pool includes a full deduction of Poland's solidarity pledge, as its fair share was adjusted to reflect the significant migratory situation Poland is facing. We look forward to continued efforts of all member states, including Poland, towards putting a European, fair, efficient, and sustainable migration management system in place. A system where each member state has the flexibility to address its challenges while ensuring that no one is left alone under the pressure. With June approaching, the 12th of June, our focus must sharpen. The Commission, we colleagues, are closely monitoring implementation, and our next progress report due in the coming weeks will not just describe progress, but identify critical gaps that need urgent attention. Let me underscore once more, 12th of June is not the finish line, it is the starting line. The Pact's success will depend on continued effort in years ahead, and we need to remain dynamic and adaptable. We need to be flexible because we know very well how much the geopolitical situation can change from one day to another. The European Union Asylum Agency monitoring mechanism will help us review, evaluate, and adjust as needed. So we are in the final stretch. In 3.5 months, the Pact will become the reality. The Commission and the agencies continue to stand ready to support member states every step of the way. But success depends on all of us, on all actors. And to those here today, especially representatives from academia, but also civil society in Poland, I want to hear your perspectives and best practices. I will follow then afterwards the full registration. This is the shared challenge that we have and the teamwork that will make the difference. Not everything will be perfect by June. I think we should not expect a perfect solution. But the major building blocks, border procedures, Dublin transfers, IT system, must function. The alternative is disruption, legal uncertainty, and a failure to deliver on our promises to European citizens. This is our moment, so let us finish it strong, stay together, and let's turn the Pact's vision into reality. It took a long time to negotiate. We, I think, included all lessons learned from the past, and I think it's the first moment when we propose to implement a really strategic migration policy in Europe. That would be all in terms of my introduction. So all the time that I stay with you now, I am open to your questions and comments. I hope I can answer all your comments. I am going to gather and pass to my colleagues too, so will be a part of our reflection, helping the implementation of the Pact. Thank you very much for this introductory part for me.
Dear Ms. Stygan, thank you so much for your introductory remarks about the current state of play with Pact on Migration and Asylum, also paying attention to this strategic date of 12 June 2026, also some references to the context for Poland. So now it's time for the questions from our audience. That is why we encourage you to just raise your hand if you would like to ask the question directly, or maybe share some comments referring to some parts, and also present yourself. If not, you can put your questions or comments in a chat so we can read it. The same applies also to our guests from the second part. So also we invite our roundtable speakers that will be fully introduced later by Monika to also share some of the questions and comments, because our guests will not stay with us till the end. So this is a good time to have this exchanges between you as well. Let's see if our audience is shy or not, or maybe everything was so clear. If not, I can provide some opening questions to encourage colleagues. If we look at the gaps and challenges that have this national context, and we look all the countries that you are working with and their representatives, what are the biggest challenges and gaps you may still encounter after June 2026? Because as you said, this is just the opening and it will take time. We have to stay adaptive and flexible. So obviously a lot has happened in recent years. The geopolitical situation regionally and globally has changed a lot. So what are the gaps, challenges that we may face as specific countries covered by the Pact? And if there is something that is not included still in this legislative package, but anyway, we know that we have to address it very soon because the situation is so, dynamic.
Thank you very much for the question, but I will still start with with what I said before, that the 12th of June we have to really accept it and be assertive about this, all of us, because I will say why I am underlining this. We have to accept the fact that the situation will be not entirely perfect the day D. Obviously, we have been preparing quite a time now in between the adoption of the Pact, but I mentioned to you a number of most innovative elements of the Pact, and these ones, especially Eurodac and border procedure, are the big challenges for the member states for various reasons. Especially for Eurodac, which obviously it's an IT system. I said it's not just a technical tool. It's an operational foundation. So the elements here can be technical, but they will have operational consequences for the functioning, because in all this network frame of member states doing united way the same things in order to implement the same policy, and this is our strength. In all of these, everything must work at the same time. So if there are little problems, we are going to be in a listening mood in real time, and we are still, especially in this period preceding the 12th of June, in order to identify the last potential things that can really be problematic, even from the technical point of view. For the border procedures, it's also very important, because it becomes mandatory screening for all arrivals. So this innovation is linked with the complexity I mentioned. What we identified and what I presented to you as the most needed elements are the potential elements of weakness, because if you need a good infrastructure, so facilities, they will be larger. They will have to be larger. They will have to be also better prepared. But from another point of view, there is life which comes with solutions. They are new technological developments. What is a challenge here? We have to use them well in the context of these infrastructures, in the context of different procedures, whenever the use is possible. And we have to check that this use is the use of the new technologies is also done correctly. So they are things which the developments in the world that they are helping also developments of innovative solutions, innovative in the sense of migration solutions, migration proposed ways of doing that should help better preparation, but yet they require a preparation of these new technologies, for example, by member states. But this is all happening. I mean, all the things started, and here and there can be certain differences. We know the situation in member states, the knowledge about what is happening, the awareness of what is happening in member states is based on our constant contacts every day, in missions, in normal contacts, working contacts every day. And they are based on trust. This common work of preparation has been constantly increasing the trust and confidence among all the partners of this network, among all the elements of this framework. And that is also a very positive and optimistic element, because it means that everybody being a part of this process wants to go on. So more we know earlier, or more we discover in common work in real time, quicker we can act in order to help. And we are, and agencies, we are especially working in this direction to be now really entirely at service of member states needing potentially help. I mean, infrastructure, it's usually linked with investments of money, but we have funds and we have national programs of member states. They can make the choices. They can dedicate their money to the parts where they have these weaknesses. For infrastructures, it is specifically important. Another thing is staffing, because it will be larger service, because it is composed of various elements which are interconnected. The staff must be also well prepared. So the member states have been investing in time and money and efforts in training, and we together with them and agencies too. So I think I would see it in this larger perspective, but I would see it really in a positive way, because let me maybe say why I am optimistic about the Pact. And indeed, I am a person who remembers this decade ago, the time when the crisis came, and what we had at that time as a proposal for a solution for migration. That was it was a new policy. It was at the beginning of a way, but based on the crises that were coming in the real world, one after another. I mean, I said we learned number of lessons that then took quite a lot of time to be included in the negotiations of the final solution of the Pact. And I think that for the first time, a scale of ambition of the Pact itself, and the fact that the European Union agreed all these ambitious changes together, it's the first reason for being optimistic. 10 years ago, that would have been impossible. In my opinion, no, and now it's a legal reality that we are putting in practice. And second, because we are now really very close to implementation date, as I said, the work of the member states is ongoing, especially on Eurodac, on reception conditions, on returns, on integration, on legal pathways. So whenever we see that there are elements that we can consider a bit weaker in member states, we try to act now. And that this way of working in trust, as I explained, that's the second point for my optimism. And the third one is, for the first time, I think, there is really a broad political consensus over the need for European solution to manage migration, to address citizens' concerns, to safeguard asylum systems so that we can continue to offer protection, and that it is a strategic migration offer. It's a full comprehensive one. It's the one which will be not perfect today, but I am absolutely certain will bring the results with the months to come.
Thank you so much for this detailed answer to also my multi-aspect questions. But this is how Pact looks like, and it's like multidimensional. So now we see that we have a first question from our audience, and we have still around 25 minutes. So Agnieszka Kulesa from Poland, please.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Marta. I have a short question regarding the space for cooperation in the implementation of the Pact with the United Kingdom. Is there such a space? And if yes, what are the areas that the EU and its member states would most likely cooperate in? You mentioned Eurodac, you mentioned also the border procedure. Of course, there's the situation on the border between sea border between France and the UK. So I would be very interested to see your point of view. Thank you.
I mean, you know that after the Brexit, the UK is the third country, but we are having negotiations and specific relations concerning the certain number of issues, and one part of this package is also concerns also the migration, borders, and security. And I cannot tell you a lot about this because in all negotiations nothing is agreed until everything is agreed. But it's clear that that we have to find the ways to continue to cooperate together in the way that will bring results to one of the problems that appear in our migration situation and also in the UK migration situation. I am saying one particular element because when I refer to this 10 years ago with UK, which was still before the Brexit, we had basically the crisis appearing almost only on the one side. It was always on the south. It was or east or west or center of Mediterranean, in different times. Nowadays, with UK, which is outside also, EU is in the situation when I think we have all potential migratory challenges possible. It's not only on the south, it's not only because of the big flow of people, but it's also because of the change model of increasing the migration through the instrumentalization. It's because of the war. It's on other parts of our external borders. I think we came to the situation when on all sides we have all potential types of migratory problems that we can have. And one of them is also on the channel. The problem in the channel is, it was an old problem in the times when UK was there with, you might remember, the famous buzzword of jungle, but it was a real situation of enormous amount of people being at the close to Calais and trying to get to UK. That was dealt by the French government at a certain moment, that offered the relocation of people to different reception centers in France. Now we do not have the place like that, but we have a constant movement of many people moving the same way, this time going from the European Union to UK, to the third country. And we are in cooperation with UK as a third country, trying to find the even more and more efficient ways to deal with the situation. There is an engagement of agencies in surveillance from the side of the member states being on our part in the European Union, engagement of countries which are not only France, but also Belgium, Netherlands. And we are in talks with the UK to find the ways to make it better. But it is a conversation in between European Union and a third country, and the negotiations are ongoing, so I cannot for the moment say more about this.
Thank you so much. Do we have other questions from the audience? Because we have still 20 minutes. If not, in the meantime, I would, based also on this follow-up explanations, I would ask two, even three brief questions, because you've said a lot about this Eurodac and this technological aspects, infrastructure. So could you please comment in any way if there are any AI connected, AI driven and technological challenges that we should take into consideration, also in terms of data protection. So when we think about, different procedures, when we collect the data, especially of third country nationals, in terms of entry to the EU. So this would be the first question. Another one is about the emphasis that is put on different EU-specific migration policies, because in my opinion, Pact is mostly about border policy and asylum policy. So it pays a lot to these two sub-policies. There is not so much specifically about immigration policy, including integration aspects. So the focus is not on the foreign populations, third country nationals already staying within the EU, but rather on those that are supposed to entry on different legal basis. And the third point is about this strong emphasis on the return aspect, because we know that it has been like criticized to some extent that the EU policies are getting more and more strict in terms of the so-called deportations, but in EU language, it's about efficient returns and readmissions policies. So these are three aspects that I would like to ask, and if you can address them to different extent, it would be good. Thank you so much. And still, we encourage our audience to ask some questions, because this is really a good opportunity having Ms. Sagan with us.
Thank you very much. On the AI, in first place, I would maybe refer to the more general issue of AI in the European Union, because it's very important to, you know it very well, but it's very important to remember that basically we are one of few European Union, at European Union level, one of the few in the world having a framework for the AI as such. And this is Artificial Intelligence Act, which has been adopted a few years ago. And at this stage is in the phase of implementation too. Why I'm saying so? Because in few places there are frameworks, especially legal frameworks, which refer to the use of the new technologies, which means for us that we have a good legal framework, a number of soft acts and guidance which are being in making, because it's the phase of implementation also for Artificial Intelligence Act. There is also a number of implementing acts to the AI Act. It's a frame which puts an order and clarify things, gives the definitions, allows the member states to use the same definitions and procedures, have the same safeguards concerning also data in all the European Union, but we also have to factor it in our relations with third countries. Now, Artificial Intelligence Act and our policy is a very special one, because we have a full part concerning the use of artificial intelligence by the law enforcement authorities, by judiciary, and also use especially exactly in the equipment of the borders, or trying to see how potentially it could be used in helping the processes in the asylum migration field, but only then when it is not linked with, when it is possible, when it is not prohibited by the parts, legal parts of the act. We are working currently in the Commission on the guidance that are including all the potential use cases of high risks that would require a special treatment, that would require the agreement to be used. So we have the framework which puts an order, but also the framework that proposes a number of steps that member states have to take. So it takes also a little bit of time. And all this is especially, a special focus is given to the monitoring and control of the use of AI from the point of view of fundamental rights and data protection. Now, for the EU-specific policies, as you said, I think that I mean, you certainly know that recently the Commission proposed the first European Asylum and Migration Management Strategy that sets out the vision on asylum migration with concrete priorities, which covers 5 priorities. It is about the stepping up migration diplomacy, and this is migration diplomacy. It's again something which is a lessons learned from the past. It covers all the elements concerning the relations with third countries, all the partnerships, or the cooperation with the third countries concerning our areas. It's in 10 years ago, we would be talking exclusively about external policy and migration diplomacy. If you look into the text of the strategy, migration strategy, it shows how many elements inside we proposed in order to make it a coherent and quite comprehensive package to be used and dealt with in all our migration policy. The second element is about strong EU borders to enhance control and security. So it's about the borders. Then obviously a firm and a fair and adaptable asylum and migration system, more effective return and readmission, and labor and talent mobility to boost competitiveness. So all these elements, which cover a broad spectrum, they are a part of, they are forming this strategic migration policy for the future. So I would not see it narrow. I would see it covering all these parts, because we are talking about the Pact, but the Pact is composed of various legal acts which cover all these different elements. And for return, I mean, you might remember that return has been at stake already for quite a long time. We in the Commission, we have proposed first a directive that was a long time ago. It went to the European Parliament, and we had quite a long negotiations about this, and we were not able to close this successfully. Now the return part for us, it's one of a strong element, but it's a fair element. It's not about deportations. It's about return of those who entered illegally, irregularly the European Union and have no right to be here. Return is to make it, their return, effective in an efficient way. Now we change the proposal. We proposed the regulation on return, and the recent developments are very positive about the return. The legislation again will be the one thing, and the implementation by the member states is concrete, real implementation is absolutely sine qua non to make the whole Pact and migration strategy coherent. I think that return is one of also the most difficult elements, because of the experience that we have until now, and the cooperation with member states. We work on this cooperation to get more even trust and confidence and make it more efficient, because only like this we can close the full picture. But I think that even during the period of preparation of the new time for return for the new legislation, our statistics were basically showing that in the last 2 years, for the first time, looking at this last decade of many difficult critical moments for the European Union, in these last 2 years we had for the first time the drop of 55% of irregular migrants. And for asylum applications, it was a drop of 21%. So I think that the preparations for improving the system of return and fair system of return is also on a good way, being a part of the full picture. And I would see it in a positive way. I would also like to underline one thing. I said it at a certain moment. What we propose, the solution, the fundamental solution, comprehensive solution for migration, I said it's adaptable and flexible. It will be also reviewed in a certain time. It is foreseen. It will have to be able to take into consideration all the developments on the way. And I think that this flexibility will also help member states to cooperate on these various different elements, more or less difficult, which form the part of the migration strategy as a whole, containing all the elements which I mentioned. I think for the first time, this type of strategic approach will give us a sense, and member states, they have a feeling of this, like we have, that for the first time, it will give us a feeling of being in control of the situation. It's like I said on the 12th of June, we are not going to have a perfect solution. It will be not a 100% by the book, but certainly we will feel stronger that migration is not the thing that we have to eliminate, is the thing that we have to promote, especially the legal migration and the good management of phenomena which are difficult and irregular. We are not going to eliminate migration, but we are going to control migration well. And in such a way, everybody will have a confidence in what we do. Member states, but also citizens, and also third countries which are a part of this picture under the migration diplomacy. So I think that it's the only response, the way we do it now, all together, because then I also would like to remember that when we were negotiating the Pact and preparing the migration strategy, we were consulting all our potential interlocutors and stakeholders and civil society and organizations with whom we worked on the ground. It's the only response to uncertainty of our times that we can propose now, and we have to be assertive about the complexity of this exercise. But I am fully confident that the European Union in this goes into the right direction.
Ms. Tegan, thank you so much for address all the issues. So AI, question about AI technologies and data protection, fundamental rights, specific, the extent to which the new strategy and pact, they cover the specific EU migration-related policies, and also on the comment for your comment on this return-related aspect. And as we have still 4 minutes, and you are really going deep, I would like to use this 4 minutes also to give the floor to Professor Monika Trojanowska-Strzemboszewska, our co-organizer, because I assume she has also a question. Monika.
Thank you so much. Actually, I've got a question about the most controversial part of this pact, I mean, solidarity mechanism, of course. And I would like to ask you about the relocation versus flexibility solidarity. And what will be the balance between the relocation of migrants and alternative contributions? And how will the Commission prevent most member states from choosing only financial contributions? And what will be what happens if several large member states refuse to participate in this relocation mechanism, or just skip the whole mechanism? I mean, the solidarity mechanism.
I think that I would simply say like that. The proposal the system that we have, which is going to be enter into force on the 12th of December, and which we have been preparing for quite some time, and we will continue to cooperate to implement it. It's a balanced migration policy. It is based on the principle of the balance between solidarity and responsibility. The system is based on rules that are fair, agreed by member states, and a situation of each and every member state will be migratory situation, and then the consequences, choices, and the next steps will be seen based on that legislation and on the tools that we have been preparing together with member states and with the agencies in order to allow member states to make choices that are proper to their situation. For this, we need a good assessment of migratory situation. For these, agencies helped us to prepare the tools to do it, as we also have these tools. So I gave in the introductory speech an example of a member state that indeed was using towards which we have been already discussing and using the concrete information and the assessment of the migratory situation in order to see what tools can be used or not. So here I think there is a system. There is a system, there are tools to use the system, and there is a dialogue with member state. The only thing which can happen if something would go wrong, if it will be against the legislation, then there are always tools that we have as a commission, as a guardian of the treaties. But we have to see what is the issue, because maybe in reality, I think, as I said, we have lessons learned behind us. The pact has been negotiated for a long time, and everybody agreed to this in order to have the system, the tools, and then to use it in a way that would be acceptable, ambitious, but acceptable for everybody. And then what we try to do in the meantime is to to beef up these tools to facilitate the assessment, the fair, honest assessment of migratory situation of every member state. And the second element of this implementation of this principle, responsibilities versus solidarity, is the trust and confidence with member states in a common dialogue. And as soon as we see that we start the dialogue on the potential choices or proposal of member states based on the legislation, if there will be some specific problems, we are going to try to deal with them in a way that will eliminate them in advance or to facilitate them, and then only after we can try to see if there is no a solution. But I think personally that there is always a solution, because the system is really adaptable and flexible, but based on firm rules. But it's based also on the experience of member states and of us, of the European Union, over these last 10 years. So again, I would show a certain optimism. I think you are going to say sometimes I am too much, but I think I have a certain small right as a person who has seen this process happening for quite a long time. And I can really tell you what we have now compared to what we have 10 years ago. It's a fundamental change, and it's something which is a very solid basis. And for the first time, I think we just have to work together and try to make it done and see the first results, and maybe be confident that at a certain moment this world is going to start to be a little bit more calm around of us, because otherwise the number of issues and problems that we are going to have on all other fronts, which will be relevant and impacting also on the migration, borders and security, can grow, and then afterwards we will have to be really adaptable and see if what we have will be sufficient.
Mr. Gunn, thank you so much, because you address openly and in detail, in fact, every question, and the questions were like easier and a bit more complex. So it's highly appreciated. We've addressed different aspects of this learning process, and you shared also your insights from behind, so how it looks, and really that it's not like fully delivered package with no follow-up changes. So this flexibility that was stressed. So thank you once again for being with us today for this first hour. Obviously, you are welcome to stay with us even without camera if you still want, and you can take into consideration your duties, our discussions. The meeting is recorded, so anyway, it can be watched later. And in a while, I see one more comment, Neila Ayvazi. Seems the EU Commission has taken a very rigid approach based on technicalities, overlooking European fundamental rights and freedoms. So this is the statement. Now we cannot address it because it's after 11, but that's why I invited different. You would like to address? Please. You can see it also in chat.
So I will lose my the beginning of the panel, but it will be registered. But I really cannot agree with this, because please have a look. I know that the full package is complex, but we have something which is called independent monitoring mechanism. And this new independent monitoring mechanism is a key element to promote respect for fundamental rights, for screening and procedures at the border. And member states really have an obligation to set up and finance independent national monitoring bodies, which are tasked with monitoring compliance with the Union and international law during the screening, and ensuring that a substantiated potential allegation of failure to respect fundamental rights in relevant activities in relation to screening are dealt with effectively, and it can trigger, where necessary, investigations into such allegations. So the member states need to put in place adequate safeguards and guarantee the independent mechanism. This is a novelty. I will stop here because I can continue, but this mechanism can also involve relevant international and non-governmental organizations, the public bodies, independent from the authorities carrying out the screening. They are, as I said, we have lessons learned, and what we wanted to do also is, during the preparations of the implementation and earlier during the negotiations, to gain an ownership also of our partners, stakeholders as NGOs, many of them, or the international organizations that are working with us on the ground. So we are all part of this network that I mentioned before for the framework we were talking now about. So I would not agree that the no technicalities are relevant in order to allow the things to go quickly and to be done in covering the whole scope of what we have to do. Otherwise, it would not have been possible. And the what will be developing with the new technologies. I wanted to show you with the reference to the work on the General AI Act, which covers not only our area but all other areas in of the policies in the European Union. That we have created the rules which put an order and put the safeguards for the use of new technologies, including our area. So I have been working about this, and I would say definitely now the situation is different than that was before. I would really trust and focus on the cooperation of all of us on this.
So thank you very much, Neila, for the question on chat. Thank you, Ms. Cygan, for addressing it. So now I think you can run virtually to your another panel. So thank you once again. And I would like to give the floor to my colleague, Professor Monika. Thank you so much. Because we are moving to the second part, roundtable format, and before I will give the floor, just really, we encourage you during the speeches now that will follow to put the questions in a chat when you hear the specific contributions, because then it might be much easier for our participants even to look within the chat to see what are the ideas they can take for themselves and address. So Monika.
Yes.
The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the very interesting presentation and discussion on what has been achieved so far and what's happening in the EU at the member states level regarding the implementation of this Migration Pact. And the new regulation also. In this part of our meeting, roundtable discussion, we will take a closer look at some solutions, to analyze them and look at them from the perspective of the EU neighboring countries. And our panelists are Professor Maciej Cesarz from Department of European Studies, Faculty of Social Science, University of Wrocław, Professor Anna Magdalena Kosińska, Faculty of Law and Administration, University of Szczecin, and Dr. Ela Goklab-Aras, senior researcher from the Swedish Research Institute in Istanbul, and Mr. Andrea Mazelio from the University of New York in Tirana. And we agreed that each panelist will have up to 12 minutes for the presentations. after which everyone will have the opportunity to respond to the remaining presentations. Then we'll move on to audience questions. And as Marta already said, you can ask questions or leave comments in the chat. Or wait until the end of the presentation to ask a question or comment directly. Please, you can raise your hand before it. And Professor Maciej Cesarz will be the first to present his comments and remarks on the Migration Pact. We asked Professor Maciej to focus on border management reforms, including visa aspects. And Maciej, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Can we open my presentation, please? Thank you very much. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on where are you joining from. My name is Maciej Cesarz. I work at the Institute of European Studies, and my presentation today will be deliberately positioned at the border between the law and policy. Of course, I'm not going to describe the entire pact. I want to look at three specific instruments through which the EU is currently trying to manage migration from the outside. So those are, as Monica has stated, the screening procedure, visa conditionality, and the return system. They share a common logic that I would like to discuss. Next slide, please.
What I can take from this slide is mainly that, there's
I see some other voices.
It is a widely used track. I think it is according to the European Track Agencies.
Seems like we have some technical difficulties. Okay, now it works. And as you know, the pact was adopted in May 2024, and as Marta Cygan has mentioned, it is the largest legislative package in the whole history of the EU migration law, and the difference is that it is mostly done through regulations instead of directives. One thing must be clear, and according to Marta Cygan, this was a revolutionary change. In fact, the key instruments are not yet in force, and some of them will apply from June. So this is differentiated, and this reform is not totally new beginning. I would say that it is rather evolutionary. Most of these ideas appeared in Commission proposals from 2016 and 2018, and the Pact moved them across finish line after years of political deadlocks, mostly over solidarity, which was already discussed. To describe the Pact's logic is just, we can say that it's making borders thicker from both sides. So from the inside, we have faster sorting, we have earlier filtering, we have less access to the territory, and from the outside, we have externalization, moving control further from the EU borders, so pushing out the borders. So this is the containment paradigm. It is the lens that I will use to describe these regulations. Next slide, please. The three pillars that we can see represent three different legal mechanisms, but they are tackling, in fact, the same problem, but from different angles. Screening sorts people at the moment of arrival. Visa conditionality reduces arrivals before they happen, mostly through pressuring third countries. Return removes people who have no right to stay on the territory of the EU. And all three are connected. If screening falls, returns become more important. If returns are ineffective, the system will lose its credibility. And if conditionality produces no cooperation, there is no external pressure to make the other instruments work. So all three share the same logic, and all of them share the same common problem: the gap between normative ambition, which is very high, and operational reality, which can be problematic. Next slide, please. The screening procedure is genuinely new. Before the Pact, there was no uniform EU instrument requiring member states to identify and register everyone who arrived irregularly. 27 different national practices existed side by side. And the screening regulation replaces the fragmentation with one single obligatory entry point. One legal concept here matters enormously: the so-called non-entry fiction. The person has physically arrived, but under this regulation, this person is treated as not yet having entered the territory. So this means that full suite of procedural guarantees that apply on EU territory does not automatically apply during screening procedures. So the regulation provides minimum standards, like the right to information, access to advisors, emergency healthcare, but whether these standards are effective when you have 7 days for all these procedures and inadequate staff is a different question. Recognition rates in accelerated border procedures are constantly lower than in regular procedures, and it tells us something about the tight time limits which are established in all these procedures. Next slide, please. I said that the screening procedure is a novum. I want to maintain that and add some serious qualification. Normative unification is only valuable if it's accompanied by operational capacity. So Greece, Italy, Cyprus, they have been responsible for processing the vast majority of EU arrivals for years, and their administrative systems were already under chronic pressure before the Pact. And shorter time limits, which are established now, and more complex procedures may not help to solve this problem. Moria, for example, is the most powerful illustration. The hotspot system was designed as exactly this kind of standardized entry point, and the fire in 2020 left nearly 13,000 people without shelter. So the system produced the opposite what it promised. The screening regulation formalizes the hotspot approach, which was practiced before, as a permanent structural feature. This is either reassuring because it now comes with legal standards and it locks in a model that has already failed. It will be, of course, effective, but we will have to produce as sufficient staff and capacity. Next slide, please. Now let's talk about the conditionality, visa conditionality. This idea is straightforward. If a third country does not cooperate on readmission, the EU can tighten visa conditions. The mechanism is based in Article 25 of the Visa Code, and this is where the legal lever is rested. And the Article 8 of the MMRR, it connects visa cooperation to the broader border migration strategy. But we should remember that the basis for action remains still in the Visa Code. In November 2025, another regulation expanded the grounds for suspending visa-free arrangement. And this is where it gets genuinely controversial, because these new grounds include hybrid threats, golden passport schemes, which were often practiced by the EU countries, the human rights concerns. But these are mostly foreign policy considerations. They have nothing to do with readmission cooperation, in fact. And for example, a Tunisian academic who is attending a conference can now find their visa-free status suspended because of the EU-Tunisia relations getting worse. So this is not their fault, but this is the result. So this is not just a political problem. It is also a legal certainty problem. And we have not solved it yet. Next slide, please. The conditionality model that we have mentioned assumes that third countries will change behavior in response to visa pressure. So such is an expectation. But the empirical record that we have is not that convincing. Turkey, Tunisia, Serbia, they cooperate with the EU in areas where it suits their interest mostly. And sometimes they resist to cooperate elsewhere. So the research that we have shows that financial leverage produces selective compliance, not the huge structural reform. And visa policy is being repurposed here from a mobility instrument into a migration control instrument. Can we change the slide, please? Now, the return system. I was asked to talk about return system as well, so just 1 minute to spare for this problem. And the return system is where the Pact's ambitions are most clearly outpaced by reality. Roughly 20% of persons subject to return orders are actually returned. So that figure has not changed significantly in decade. This is not primarily a legal problem, it is a structural one. 27 different national systems, each with its own procedures and timelines. So this was probably the reason. Third countries, sometimes third countries refuse to issue travel documents. Persons who move to another member state before removal can be executed. So different things may happen. We have the regulations that try to respond with a proposal for a directly applicable regulation, the common return system. The European return order is the centerpiece. If adopted, it would make return decisions mutually recognized across member states. This is definitely a meaningful step, but the proposal has not yet been adopted, and there is also one provision that deserves particular scrutiny. The proposals would allow returns to a country of mere transit without any individual connection to that country. If this is adopted, it will face immediate legal challenge, probably, because the Court of the European Court of Justice has produced the ruling on Ellis and Campelli, where it has clearly signaled that that the court is heading on safe country logic mostly. I guess that this will be all that I should present as an entry piece for our conversation. So these are the main challenges of the new pact. So using the Marta Cygan words, I should be optimistic, but I should be realistic at the same time. So I guess that even though all these regulations that were produced push European Union migration policy towards the right direction, we will have to wait probably a few years until we can assess if they were really effective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maciej. Thank you for your excellent opening our panel and your remarks, and of course for keeping within the time limit as well. Now we move to Professor Anna Kosińska. And to present her, I will invite her to present her analysis of the common EU asylum system, which is currently being built before our eyes. Anya, how will the Pact and the new EU asylum strategy change the approach to international protection, qualification regulations, common qualification standards, and relocation? Please. Unmute, Anna. We can't hear you.
Okay. Now it should work.
Yeah.
Can I ask for my presentation, please? Because I have sent it. Okay. So thank you very much. It was quite a hard work, I must say, because the Common European Asylum System consists of many new regulations, and it was in fact impossible to present today all of them, because I've been working for more than 10 years in NGO helping migrants. My assessment is not so optimistic, I must say, and it gives the human rights perspective. That's why the title is to be observed here, and you can also see very important, from my point of view, sculpture by Mimmo Palladino, which is located at Lampedusa. So if I can ask next slide and the next one, because this is the issue that helps me to govern my scientific research. I prepared for today only 4 legal acts that I would like to focus on, mainly on qualification regulation and procedural regulation. In the end, the resettlement and crisis regulation. So 2 of them. So just to start with, I must say that after the analysis, main aim of the Common European Asylum System new regulations is reducing number of asylum seekers. As NGOs observe, PICUM, but also Rescue International, Human Rights Watch, there is still present risk of violation of non-refoulement, mainly because of the fiction of non-entry and border accelerated procedures. But what is optimistic here is introducing regulations instead of directives, which is going to help eliminating differences in standards of law application, in recognition rates, I believe and hope, and eliminating secondary migration, which was present under Dublin III regime. So if I may ask the next slide, please. Here short findings about qualification regulation, which I assess as the best and with the highest human rights approach with Common European Asylum System. I happily believe that this form of regulation is going to help us. Also, legislator decided to follow the case law of the Court of Justice of the European Union in many of the new regulations and articles. What is positive is broader definition of family. Now this family is going to be recognized even if it was formed on road, so after leaving the country of origin. What is also important, and it follows the case law of the Court of Justice, is the fact that refraining from certain practices in the country of origin in order to avoid the persecution cannot limit the right to asylum. And also very positively, I assess the gender emphasis and this extended interpretation of the ground of particular social group that can be also applied to women. Next slide, please. Here with protection of non-refoulement, we can find Article 21 that gives the general protection. And please, next slide, because I cannot focus on everything. What is also positive are resident permits for the beneficiaries of international protection. They must be issued no later than 90 days after recognition, but also we must remember that in the proposal in 2016, the deadline for issuing was only 30 days, so also very positive. Also, the same length of resident permits is given to family members. What is a little bit problematic, in my opinion, is the travel document length that limits a little bit free movement of beneficiaries of international protection because the length is minimum 1 year. We'll see the practice of member states, how they are going to govern this. And about the integration measures that are very often problematic, here we have some guarantees that they should be accessible and free of charge, but still some access to social assistance may be dependent on effective participation in these integration measures. So next slide, please. Yes, this is the Article 26 that gives the right to beneficiaries of international protection, so still refugee status and subsidiary protection, right to choose the place where they would like to live. As we remember from the case law of the Court of Justice, in example, in Germany, the fact is that beneficiaries of subsidiary protection were given some directions where they should stay on the territory, in which region. So now this is very optimistic also provision. And the next slide, please. And now the procedures. The procedures that I assess not so positively because they are very strict. I would like to say a few words about border procedure and accelerated procedures. In fact, this border procedure is going to be a kind of the rule, and this is part of worldwide trend of externalization of border policies. So this border procedure is going not to be limited to border or transit zones, and also there is tasks for member state to prepare these places for border processing. And the number is going to be 120,000 places in 2028. Also, Professor Cesarz mentioned about this fiction of non-entry that can be widely criticized from the human rights point of view. And next slide, please. And maybe the next one, because here also I do not have enough time to focus on it. Next question, how it is going to work are accelerated procedures that are going to be mandatory in situations enlisted in Article 42. Now we have a lot of questions mark. And in fact, maybe if we meet next year in 2 years' time, we can say much more. Now we just have only these new regulations, but these accelerated procedures also can be applied in some situations, like when the third country national is coming from a so-called safe country or country with total recognition rate lower than 20%. All these examples are not only in my opinion, but I would like to focus on the fact that this concept, in my opinion, are against to the general framework of Geneva Convention and this individual assessment that should be given to every person looking for asylum. And next slide, please. And widely discussed for over the decade, safe countries of origin and amendment given in February to the regulation. Now we have the established list of safe countries of origin that should be treated as safe for their own citizens as a rule, but also there are some exceptions to apply it to non-nationals of this country. So once again, I would like to say that this concept is not so clear, and in fact somehow limits the idea of individual assessment. We remember in 2016 when we had discussion on the list of safe countries. Here this comes back to us. And the next slide, please. Here we have the crisis and forced majeure regulation that complements, in fact, temporary protection directive. And this could be procedurally difficult for application because, in fact, we are going to have two legal acts in force, so crisis regulation and temporary protection directive that can help EU and the member states to govern mass influx of migrants. What is positive is the definition given, what crisis means in the regulation. And the next slide, please. And we have a very strict procedure with three-step activation that would help to decide whether or not we have a migration crisis on the territory of the European Union. And this is the final decision of the Council to accept this. And next slide, please. And we have also derogation that are available in crisis situation that can last maximum 12 months. And they are enlisted in the regulation and consist of delaying registration and asylum application, derogations in border procedures, in example, longer procedure that can last even 18 weeks, and suspension of Dublin transfers. And the next slide, please. And of course, here we have solidarity measures that already were mentioned by Professor Monika, that there can be introduced relocation, some financial contributions, and alternative solidarity. So let's also see the next slide, because this is the issue I would like to stop with for a moment, which is resettlement and humanitarian admission regulations. I mentioned here a very important case from 2017 that was concerning humanitarian visas introduction into EU legal system, and this problem of third countries who are in danger of persecution or even their life, and the admission and the possibilities how to reach the European Union. This judgment was widely once criticized, and unfortunately still we do not have humanitarian visas for third country nationals. A kind of resettlement program was introduced here in this regulation. This is a resettlement, in fact, governed by UNHCR, who is going to be a helping hand for member states. And in my opinion, it's still is not still resolving the problem of people in need. So we'll see maybe in practice how it works within few years. And the last slide, I believe, please. Yes. So here is my maybe not very positive assessment of the whole package. What I must say is the fact that a common European asylum system is restricting right to asylum, and reducing number of asylum seekers is the main aim. Of course, governance is still important, and there are no doubts that European Union is becoming a safe gulf for many people, and these migration movements must be somehow limited. But still, border procedures and restriction to right to international protection is giving us a lot of doubts and questions for the future of the individual right to seek asylum in European. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anna, for your concise and thoughtful contribution, especially since we know this issue is broad and multi-faced, generating many comments. So far, we have presented two key dimensions of the reform of the EU migration and asylum policy. One focus on managing the EU's external borders, and the other on the asylum system and efforts to develop a common solution for the entire EU. As repeatedly emphasized today, these are key issues in the EU Migration Pact, and that's why we choose them. Now we turn to the external dimension of the Pact and the challenges it poses for EU neighboring countries. I invite Dr. Ella Gokalp-Aras to speak. Ella, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I have a small problem. If it is possible, can you share my presentation?
Yeah.
That would be great. Thank you so much. Yeah, we can go directly. Today, first of all, I would like to thank you for this timely webinar and your kind invitation. We can continue with the next. And today I will try to focus on the external dimension and the financial architecture behind of it, and also Turkey as a particularly revealing case. And my main argument is that also, as supported with the other presentations, the Pact should not be read only as an internal reform of the EU asylum and migration system, but it should be read as a broader political, legal, and in particular financial architecture, where we also see the cooperation, strategic cooperation of the third sides. And here the Pact does not so much resolve the question of responsibility. However, it reorganizes responsibility beyond Europe by shifting actually the responsibilities. Next, please. And doing so, actually, the Pact gives three distinct roles to the third countries. First of all, it sees them as strategic partners. They are presented not necessary, but also for a comprehensive necessary comprehensive migration policy partners, rather than a side issue or the partners. And secondly, they are important operational partners, and based on the lessons learned in the past, actually the Pact re-emphasized the cooperation with third countries, in particular or including readmission and addressing the drivers of irregular migration and forced displacement. And the emphasis is on tailor-made and mutually beneficial partnership, because it is seen that even the readmission agreements could not be implemented, and it gives, from a positive perspective, a kind of voice or agency to the third countries strategically. And also, as we focus on by the other presentations, it gives a role and emphasize the safe third countries dimension. This dimension is really important because this category of the third country internally to channel, reject, and deflect asylum claims. And it's this channel also through which asylum responsibility may be shifted outward. But today I would like to also focus on the implementation part. Actually, yes, it will be fully implemented by June 2026. But if you look at the financial background of the Pact itself, actually we can see the direction, and in a way money talks, or rule by funding, we can say. With this, we see that explicitly the EU state that effective migration cooperation with third countries through partnership and funding for migration routes. And this text actually shows us the importance of the third countries, because it shows that they are not marginal or accidental, their cooperation, but this cooperation is formally embedded in the EU's migration governance toolkit as different from the crisis period. Next one, please. The next slide, please. Okay, thank you. No, before, sorry, I made a mistake. Thank you. And starting from the 2015, actually, when we look at this, we face with the very famous EU-Turkey statement, which was the initial one. But then we see other collaborative arrangements with third countries has developed since 2015. And these are also shows that the Pact does not emerge in isolation. The migration governance has gradually moved from highly visible crisis compacts to more operational partnerships and strategic declarations. And it means that externalization has not diminished. It has been normalized, diversified, and diplomatically repackaged. And also these arrangements shows that the externalization is not purely unilateral. And next, please. And the EU has actually three important strategies for the third countries, external dimension, return and readmission cooperation, as Marta perfectly asked to Marta Sigan, and the legal issue of the state third country concepts, and the road-based funding. And in this framework, next please, the role of Turkey is really important because as Fernandez Molina and Gerasimos Tosoropoulos perfectly describes. Next, please. Yes, we have migration diplomacy, but migration power. Migration power is the ability of states and other actors to shape outcomes through the governance of migration using material leverage, institutions, social structures, and discourses. This is quite important, and we see that the limited implementation of readmission agreements also signed with Turkey reveals that third countries retain bargaining power and can partly project their own priorities. And actually from the strategy document that mentioned with Marta Sigan, we see that this time the priorities and also the perspectives of the third countries try to be mentioned. And the EU-Turkey migration relationship in the sense should be understood as the hybrid field of migration power. And with this migration power, and in particular with the structural power, the EU has been shaping what kinds of migration governance become materially possible and institutionally durable through funding, programming, and infrastructure building. And when Marta Sigan was emphasizing Eurodac technologies and infrastructures, actually with these fundings, we see that starting from 2015, but mainly when we look at the evolution of the funding, we see that these infrastructures, in case of Turkey, for example, pre-accession assistance because of the candidacy, or the most important part of the Pact and neighborhood development and international cooperation instrument, briefly NDC, shows that there is a new focus on return, readmission, border surveillance, detention capacity, and anti-smuggling priorities. And this infrastructure actually supported by the funding, but we have to emphasize that Turkey and the other third countries are not passive objects of the structural influence. It operates EU funding capacity building and incorporates it into its own domestic governance objectives, administrative restructuring, and foreign policy strategy. Next, please. And the statement is quite important here because when we see, as a part of the compact, we see a very important crisis action. The statement itself was highly visible, politically charged, legally criticized, and publicly debated. It looked like an implicit political deal, and precisely for that reason, it became highly controversial. And after just 2 days ago, we completed 10 years of the statement. When we were actually waiting for the renewal of its statement, however, it followed a quieter and more technical phase. This is my emphasis for the cooperation and where actually the impact frames perfectly. Because today, instead of highly visible political bargains, we increasingly see funding envelopes, implementation projects, databases, removal capacity, and operational cooperation moving to the foreground. In other words, the political priorities did not vanish. It seems like the politicization, they didn't renew the statement, but now actually it's more profoundly integrated into the EU migration and asylum governance system. They did not vanish, but they were translated into more technical and administrative instruments, and it becomes the new normal. In the Pact era in particular, this process becomes even more normalized. Externalization becomes less spectacular, but more deeply integrated because it is now embedded in law, procedures, and infrastructure through the funding. Next, please. And when we focus on the funding, I already mentioned. Next, please, one more. We look at the evaluation. With our research with dear Umutcan Yüksel, we try to trace the funding from 2015 to 2026 to be able to see the evaluation of the EU externalization funding. And in particular, starting from the third and the fourth period, we see the Pact itself, the NDC, as I mentioned, is the most important fund. And financial instruments at that period, starting from 2021, they are fully integrated into external action, return and readmission conditionality are mainstreamed into development, trade, and mobility partnership. And next, please. When we were, the next one as well, I have to jump, the next one. When we look at the NDC, we see that not only in terms of the previous one, please, one previous. When we look carefully to NDC, we were trying to analyze the size, but also the provided projects through the EU level. We had 13 thematic categories and 59 subcategories. And from the definitions of these projects, their main aims and focus, we were trying to understand what does it say actually, these funds, because the policy on the one hand, but also these funds and the project shows the direction. And as you can see, as perfectly mentioned by Majek, it focused on containment, direct control, deterrence, and you see a very limited genuine protection of the asylums and the migrants. But there are also one category you can articulate or see as the, both sides. Next, please. Yeah. And in terms of Turkey, we see that Turkey is a candidate country, and there are lots of, instruments. But if you look at these instruments, starting from the FREED, is a facility for refugees for Turkey, and we see that this 10.5 billion euros. In terms of size, yes, it has been increasing, but starting from NDC, also Turkey benefits from this. The next one, please. again, when we look at this, starting from the 2013, we see mainly those funds was, transferred to the capacity building. But starting from Fried's period, you see that the increased border management, removal centers, return programs, the voluntary return programs, also supported by EU, the national one, and the border management actions. And at the EU level, but also in specific for the Turkey level, we see that funds has been decreasing, but increasing, but also how they use their functions has been changing, as emphasizing the return and readmission. And when we categorize this 13 thematic codes and 59 subcodes, and you can see the sources we already published and the forthcomings are on the way. Next, please. We see that 32% goes to border management. I mean, now we are talking about the EU money. Now we are not talking about the crisis compact statement anymore, but it's more technical, it's articulated, and it really helps to construct Turkey for the establishment of the national return mechanisms, where actually the readmission system through the agreements doesn't work. And we see the coercive infrastructures are supported by the structural power of the EU. Next, please. And also from here, you see that despite the language of the Pact itself, regarding the protection and safeguards, when we look at the coming funding from the EU, despite the language itself, over the 50–80% of the funds goes to dual function, mainly goes to primary containment, the border management and return, and the return programs as well. Next, please. And here, what we see actually, the third countries as financial lens makes visible. The Pact looks different when we weave through a third country and financial lens. First of all, the Pact is not only an internal EU reform. We see obviously that it is also broader governance architecture extending migration management beyond EU territory through law, partnership, but also importantly funding. It is not only about solidarity within the EU, but also we see a shifting practical responsibilities outward, and again through the supports of the funding and through the structural power, especially in hosting, containment, return, and border management. And it is not only about cooperation, but also about conditionality. But here we should see that this is not unilateral, and then we see also the bargaining capacity of the third countries. That's why we have a very, detailed strategic document. And it is not only about policy, but also about infrastructure. Then we see that it is not only a story of the EU control, because third countries such as Turkey retain leverage, bargaining power, and strategic agency. And the last one, please, for concluding. And the new Pact, as we can see, is not only legal reform inside. There are many aspects. I'm not a legal expert, but reading it from the funding perspective, actually, we see the tendency and the directions of and the policy priorities of the Pact, and also the given role to the third countries. And it is not quite possible to be being positive like the other presenters. And the Pact's external power lies not only in its rules, but in its ability to recognize migration governance through financially mediated and negotiated forms of cooperation. Thank you. And the very last one, I know that it was extremely fast. We have given limited period time, but these are some documents we already published, and you can see the financial analysis in details and externalization dimension, and there are also forthcoming. It was a part of our recently completed GAPS project, which was focusing on return and readmission, and also the organizer can share my presentation with the participants, and hopefully the other publications are on the way. Thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you, Ella, for presenting. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, great. For this very important external perspective on the implementation of the Pact, which is, in fact, I think significantly determines its effectiveness. In this respect, Turkey is really absolutely key actor that must be taken into account when we are discussing solutions to the EU migration and asylum policy. And I'm now inviting Mr. Andrea Mazzilio from Tirana to address these matters. He will demonstrate the importance of the Pact for the countries of the South Eastern Europe, particularly Albania. Please.
Thank you very much. It is of great pleasure to accept your invitation, Professor Monica, and to be part of this important agora, I would like to call it, on the threats and opportunities of the EU Pact on Migration and Asylum. Since it is quite a new document, which deliverables and impacts are not yet seen, but hope it is on the way. This Pact on Migration, so-called, it is all in all, since I am a lawyer, a framework of 10 legal acts, as discussed by the former presenters, on how the asylum procedures in the EU will follow, how will the migrants be treated, what are the EU management system going to, let's say, settle issues when there is an international protection enforced. So all in all, an harmonization. I want to thank all the presenters and highlight the valuable contributions of Commissioner Marta. She highlighted the fact that even though the migration, the EU Pact on Migration and Asylum, it is called to be a new chapter on migration policy, she emphasized the need for us to have return border procedure for the fast removals, and of course the ETI impact on it. Mr. Professor Časeš, I'm sorry for pronouncing wrong the name, but it's Polish and it's difficult. I would like to retrieve and to enter into my topic for the prolonged detention system issue, for the Maria warning, and of course for the readmission cooperation, which is very much important for the Western Balkans. And in the end, but not because of let's say, importance, I want to emphasize that Professor Kosinka and of course Mrs. Arash, both of them, they had important insightfuls, which are very much, let's say, great contributions for the Western Balkans and Albania. But the Pact on Migration, even though it is an EU legal instrument, it does not leave behind the heart of Europe, I want to call it, the Western Balkans. There are 6 countries, in the heart of Europe, like in the literally in the center of Europe, where they are not member of the European Union, but they face the same problems and the same issues as the EU members. The Western Balkan road is considered to be one of the most important migratory roads that migrants and asylum seekers, they enter into the European Union, and as such, Western Balkans, they have to tackle and regulate an action plan in line with the EU standards, because they are candidate countries after all. The most important issue is the border migration arrangements that most of the Western Balkan countries, they have a border migration arrangement with Frontex, except for Kosovo and Bosnia and Herzegovina, where Bosnia, it is currently under a so-called the negotiation process. But in the same time, in the other countries, Serbia, North Macedonia, Montenegro, and Albania, Frontex is carrying out deployments and joint operations into these countries. What it is important for me to highlight is that the migration, the management of migration through Frontex assisting, it is a let's say an initiative that, and of course an instrument required for the Western Balkan countries to consolidate their policies and strategies on managing the migration issues. But we do have a new threat, which I call it the Albanian inventory, which came as a result of the Italian-Albanian externalization model of the agreement for the establishing reception centers in the Albanian territories, the Italian reception centers to be established here. And in this regard, we see that, there is a new threat on the horizon. What is this new threat about? The European countries, even though of accelerating their policies on robusting their policies on managing migration issues, they are trying to somehow find new pathways, such as establishing migration hubs in other countries. I mean, in other countries which are candidate countries, which their obligations shall be considered to be in the same line with the EU countries. All in all, I have to highlight and I want to emphasize that the Western Balkan region, it has some, let's say, conditionalities set by the European Union when it comes to the visa policy alignment with the EU list of visa third countries requirement, and of course establishing operational measures when it comes to strengthening border management in collaboration with Frontex, SWIFT, asylum processes and support reception capacities in line with the EU Migration and Asylum Pact, fighting the migrant smuggling, enhancing readmission, cooperation and returns, and of course the policy alignment of the visas, which are all the requirements from the EU Pact on Migration as per the action plan designed from the European Union. What happens in Albania is that Albania shall be considered, along with Montenegro, but I will speak for Albania, are two countries that they have achieved, or they are the fastest on road to join the European Union. As such, also in the areas of management of migration and aligning the regulatory framework with the EU Pact on migration, which not yet is in power, is that largely Albania has aligned the regulatory framework with the EU acquis, but even though the implementation of this regulatory framework, still it is considered to be a threat, and of course to be a priority. We have in Albania, we have a readmission agreement with the EU, which is going well, how to say, and of course we are implementing all the protocols that the EU is requiring in cooperating with agencies of the European Union. What I should highlight is that the Albania and all Western Balkan countries, they are not migration or migratory destinations. They are transitory roads. As such, Albania, as a transitory road, it has a decline of the overall, let's say, asylum seekers using Albania as a transitory road. From 2021, where we had around 10,000 asylum applications in Albania, and they were using mainly Albania as a transitory road. In 2024, we have around 1,500. The majority of applications are from Syria, except 2023, where it is Afghanistan, but mainly asylum seekers or refugees passing through Albania. They come from Syria, Pakistan, Afghanistan, or Morocco. What shall we highlight is that besides being a transitory road, we also fuel Europe, EU with migrants per se, like Albanian leaving Albania. We have to highlight that this is a phenomena not only in Albania, but in all Western Balkan countries. I think, and I'm sure that we are joining Albanians and Western Balkans, they are joining the European Union faster than their countries will do. According to the Eurostat, the statistics, there were around 15,000 Albanian nationals who were ordered to leave EU, and of course, out of 15, 7,800, they were effectively returned. So, in a nutshell, I want to emphasize that the cooperation between Albania and Frontex, it is very good, but what it is important is that Albania should align also the bylaws, especially in the reception centers, establishing a center for minors, which was lacking in Albania very long ago. And since it is a transitory hub, Albania should consider challenges when it comes to the capacities that the country has on border and migration policies. I want to recap on what I highlighted in the beginning of my lecture, that of my presentation, that Albania, since 2018, Albania has granted only one asylum status, refugee status, to one person, and in 2024, until 2024, in total there were 16 people seeking subsidiary protection. Albania was in the headlines of the news when it comes to management of the migration crisis, not as a country managing because of asylum seekers coming from the east or from the south and going through Europe. But for the Italy-Albanian migration protocol on the establishing reception centers, even though we still not yet we don't have an effective applicability or let's say an effective challenging that this protocol is unconstitutional in Albania, but there are possibilities that EU and Council of Europe principles will be breached when it comes to the non-refoulement principles, when it comes to the Albanians, let's say, obligations, and of course to the Albanians' accountability in front of the international instances. Of course, the European Court of Human Rights, because we are not yet part of the EU, so the European Court of Justice does not stand upon us. In Albania, we shall say that we are implementing the Schengen acquis and the EU Pact on Migration according to the action plan set by the European Commission. What remains as a challenge is the management of borders. And of course, what remains as a challenge is the alignment of the visa policy with countries that the EU has designed as a visa regime countries. Even though Albania has aligned its policies mainly with the European Union, there are around, let's say, 6 countries with a temporary visa waiver where in EU they cannot enter because it is required a visa regime. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Andrea, for your thoughtful, provoking contribution. You have already begun the discussion with the previous speakers, and now we have a moment for each panelist to briefly respond to the previous statements. And in the meantime, I encourage the audience to ask questions in the chat or share your comments directly. We will give you the floor shortly. And who would like to start? Maciej or Anna? Anya?
Just to let you know that there are some comments in the chat, but if Maciej and Anna can just set this, okay. It will be even better. Yeah?
Okay. Maciej, unmute, please. We can't hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Great. I have a question to Ela Gökalp-Aras. Thank you very much for a brilliant presentation. Teşekkür. It was a pleasure for me, and as a person who is deeply interested in EU-Turkish relations, especially in terms of migration. And I have asked a question in the chat, which is associated with the current geopolitical situation, namely, to what extent could a conflict in Iran transform Turkey's role from migration gatekeeper into, let's call it, active geopolitical broker, using migration flows as a leverage in its relations with the EU? And what do you think how the EU would react in these terms?
Should I directly go?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the recent developments, we see that Turkey closed the border, and then in the past, when 2021 summer, after the withdrawal of USA, when the Afghan migration started to Turkey made quite clear that the case will not be dissimilar with Syrians, and now we see differentiated approach of Turkey to the different nationalities and different borders, and it's already mainly Turkey has been focusing on its own national return mechanisms, and then since 2019, we have been seeing this emphasized, and also recently we have been seeing the decrease of the Syrians who are under the temporary protection, although it is claimed that it's because of the voluntary returns after the Assad regime's collapse. We also found out from our research that unfortunately not every time is the voluntary return. And for the Iran case, Turkey will be using it against EU, but we have to emphasize that this time really, I mean, starting from 2011, the migration issues, the mass migration and the refugee issues and the borders is not only because the EU dictates, but also it becomes one of the national policy priority of Turkey, and the issue is highly is an agenda of securitization, and it will be used against EU, but unfortunately our expectations will not be open borders like it was the case for the Syrians.
Thank you. Thank you, Ella. And also Anna wrote a short comment on a chat. Anna, can you said it?
Yes, of course.
Say it publicly. Yeah.
Yeah, with pleasure. It was very interesting presentation about Albania, because you are at the same road that Poland was some years ago, and this is interesting to observe your hard work to join European Union. And I was shocked by the low or zero refugee statistics in Albania. So I'm curious whether there are any forecasts of researchers in political sciences, in example, on how joining the EU will affect the number of applications. So whether Albania is going to be a hosting country for third country nationals when being a member of the European Union, or do you think it is still going to be a transit country?
Thank you very much. To say the truth, also we as researchers or practitioners in the country are shocked somehow when the reception centers, they are, let's say, for months empty. Because the trends in Albania is that we do have irregular arrivals, I mean, in very high numbers. The numbers might be very high comparing also to the official statistics. But what it is of interesting fact is that they are never considering Albania as a country of destination. They are considering Albania as a transitory road, and mainly refugees, they are seeking to go to Germany or Northern Europe, Sweden, and other countries. Albania, it is from, let's say, state perspective, it is taking measures. I mean, we were in lack of reception centers, we were in lack of, let's say, also specialized centers for minors. Now with the new, let's say, assessment by the EU and the seventh report on the visa control from the EU, we have fulfilled the requirements. Now, will we have any asylum seekers in the upcoming years? This I cannot tell, but from perspectives, we do have migrants from the east, but they are mainly because of a labor force and a workforce, and they come as organized, let's say, through organized processes, and they are well settled and legally established in Albania, so not seeking refugee protection. in this regard, will we be able to uphold the EU standards if we become a EU member state? When we might face a migration crisis, I don't know, but what I know is that staying between Greece, Italy, and Croatia, because I will not count Montenegro. Montenegro is in the same features as us. It will. I think that it will not be difficult that Albanians, let's say, job opportunities to satisfy the migrants and the asylum seekers in the near future, even though we might be a member of the EU.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Ella, do you want to comment on other speeches or?
Not at the moment, maybe later.
Okay. So I can't see the comments on the chat. Maybe we'll have them more in a few minutes. Actually, we have only a few minutes to the end. And well, summarizing, it seems that as Marta Cygan said, what our guests presented today is an attempt to build a system whose effectiveness will depend on the functioning of its individual components. And it's a system of interconnected vessels, some of which are very sensitive. And knowing this, what can we expect in the coming months? And what challenges will they face this process of implementation? Can you deal with it? This general question.
So yeah, we would be very grateful for like very final 1 minute summaries addressing also the point raised by Monica, because then we have to slowly close the discussion, and there are no additional questions and we would like to be time efficient. So please, we can maybe, Monica, follow exactly the order we have in our program. So we will start with brief comments by Anna, then Maciej, Ela, and Andrea, and finally I will summarize.
Yeah.
As I was asked to summarize, I'm very curious how the whole system is going to work. Mainly, I'm curious about the border procedures and building this new system of analyzing it. And I must say that most interesting for me is going to be the legal assessment of these rules by the coming, for sure, judgments of the Court of Justice of the European Union, and how they are going to be implemented in reality. Also, I have some doubts concerning the access to legal representation, because it is guaranteed only on the second stage of the procedure. How is going to look like this access to counseling during the analyzing the applications from asylum seekers. I'm not very proud that European Union is joining the team of externalization of migration. I remember when we talked almost 10 years ago about Australia and Papua New Guinea, which was something shocking for Europeans, that you can apply for asylum in Australia and never be there. So something is changing generally in asylum policies, this securitization and externalization. And in fact, first months are going to show us how it's going to work, this system. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Anna. And maybe Maciej, your comment.
Well, the pact is legally sophisticated, as we could see, and the procedural guarantees are formally present, but the system rests on assumptions that the empirical record does not consistently support. It assumes that frontline states will have capacity, for example, for 7-day screening procedures. It assumes third countries will respond to visa pressure. It assumes a common return regulation will break a 15-year deadlock in readmission cooperation. None of these assumptions are wrong, but none of them are obviously right either, which means the capacity of the European Union to fulfill all these obligations may be problematic. So we will still have to wait with the assessment, as I said previously. The direction is correct, as to my opinion. However, I'm not sure if especially the front states will be able to fulfill all the obligations arising from the new regulations. And so we are months away from full application. Early implementation data will be the real test. And what can I say today is that normative ambition is real and the operational risks are equally real. Thank you.
Thank you, Maciej. Yeah, the question is where are the front states? Are they maybe Poland or maybe Turkey? So, Ella, it's time for you.
Thank you very much. Well, I think, of course, the future of the pact is likely to mean deeper, entanglements of the EU migration governance of the third states. But I think it won't be on the equal terms. I mean, there will be still asymmetries, and also we need to turn to the capacities of those third countries to deal with the new responsibilities which will be or already shifted from the EU sides. And we will be talking about, of course, more containment and return, and even stopping the unwanted populations before they depart. But then I just want to share one anecdote. Recently, we were at the another roundtable, and there was a presentation from Africa, and it was a collaborative, comparative one, and it was saying that after receiving the EU fund, which is almost bigger than their entire national budget, they observed that those governments, they couldn't continue, and there was corruption, etc. Then the coup d'etat come. And in 2016, it happened to Turkey, but our government was there. And I think we need to look at and analyze each third countries with their foreign and domestic policy aspects. But I think we will be seeing, asymmetric relations and the emphasis of funding and maybe reverse conditionality more. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a comment on the chat and the question actually from Najila. Are there any relevant studies forecast made on the possible migration flows from Iran to neighboring or the EU countries? It's a 90 million nation. There is an assumption that if there will be a ground intervention there, a migration flow will move to the north, which will even affect a third world war. Someone who can answer to this question? Feel free. If not, we can move
maybe I may say something, Monica. I mean, population is huge, and it's huger than, of course, in terms of the national population of Syria. But even Turkey was not quite welcoming of the Afghans population when they were coming from Iran. And if it is the case, I think according to the third countries also everybody took their lessons and Turkey tried to
I think Ella is frozen.
use the open door policy for a while, even though if we criticize the country, there are important developments as well. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
But I think they will do their best to contain the concerning population in the country and avoid the further mass migration. I mean, it will be the response, at least as far as we could understand from Turkey's sides.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much. So, Andrea, if you want to say a word at the end, so it's a time.
Yes.
Thank you, and I will be short because I highlighted that since I was the last presenter, I highlighted also my impressions of the other speakers. To my opinion, some urging issues relate to the safe third country of origin, the designation of the safe third country of origin. The job of the European Court of Justice is going to be huge after the EU Pact of Migration, and I think that it will. When the court it is invested, then we are in uncharted waters. What it is important is that the EU once for all should designate what are these externalization hubs of migration, such as the case of Italian-Albanian, let's say, reception center, either to stop it or to vocal it as legally in compliance with the EU acquis. And when it comes to the candidate countries, we shall bear in mind that we do have shared responsibility between EU and the Council of Europe, in front of the European Court of Justice, even in cases of reception hub centers of the Italian reception centers in Albania.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you all of you for the excellent presentations. And we have to finish our seminar. So Marta, the closing.
Very brief. I will be very brief because I'm also like to be on time. So thank you very much for being with us today. Over 30 people, or almost all 30 people till the end. So it means that the discussion was up to date and relevant also for our guests. Thank you for the questions. And I think that we should have more like follow-up discussions also about the progress in terms of legislative package implementation in the future with different angles. So internal perspective, as we've discussed today, external perspective, as we've covered with our guests, and obviously, if possible, with the invitation of colleagues from the EU offices, because they obviously will have a bit different perspective than researchers or, for example, representatives of NGO. So the meeting is recorded. We will discuss with Monica where it will be posted, but it will be available also to get back to it. So once again, many thanks to Monica, Karol, that was our technical and PR support, Anna, Maciej, Ela, Andrea, and Marta, which is not with us now. So once again, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Karol, we can stop recording, and Monica, we can stay for a while to have a brief